Members, we have a quorum and we've reached the appointed hour. This is the meeting, special meeting of the PWSC, and we are to deal with the late applications by 12 members. This, of course, is the late application to become a member. Now, at the previous meeting, we accepted Mr. Paul Chair's application, and afterwards I wrote to 11 members again, informing them that the PWSC had accepted Mr. Paul Chair's application for late membership, and the order for application for the remaining 11 cases were arranged according to the time of launching the late membership application, and I also asked them to attend the meeting and also asked them to provide supplementary written materials. The reply I have received is that Mr. Christopher Cheung has agreed to attend today's meeting. The remaining 10 have indicated that they will not attend today's meeting. Any meeting that is about to consider the application for late membership, they will not attend such meetings. I have already, I see Mr. Christopher Cheung here, so I want to deal with his application. Mr. Cheung is present. If I may, before I ask Mr. Cheung to make a presentation, I ask Ms. Yip. I'll give the floor to Ms. Yip. Now, having heard what you've said, are you going to write to the remaining members and invite them to come to the meeting? We have done it many times before, and those members have indicated very clearly that they will not attend the special meeting. So will that process be repeated and repeated? You must put an end to this. Mr. Yip, you may be very busy. You might have forgotten why I had to write a letter. At the previous meeting, there were two new issues, and I was of the view that other members should be informed. The first issue was that we unanimously approved the application for late membership by Mr. Paul Chair, because Mr. Paul Chair attended the meeting and answered members' questions. And the second issue was that we arranged the order of consideration according to the date of application received. And after discussion, members discovered that those who were at a later part of the queue would also be affected by those who have a higher order in the queue, because they might have been accepted by the PWSC and become members and can vote on whether or not to accept the late membership application of the subsequent members. And we also have decided that we will make a decision as to whether members would like me to inform the other members or on other matters. Let us deal with Mr. Christopher Cheung's application first. I would like to invite Mr. Cheung to make a presentation on the reasons for late membership application. Mr. Cheung, please. Thank you, Chairman. First of all, with regard to my late membership application, I would like to extend my apology. And the late application is the result of a not so good arrangement with my assistant. Now, when I received the notice, I was away from Hong Kong for a certain period of time. When I returned, my assistant was on leave for a week, and I was not informed of the deadline for application. Therefore, because of lack of communication, I was late in making the application. I'm a new member. I want to know more about the operation of the council to see if more I can do for the public. Therefore, I make the late membership application. I have already I have already been a member of 6 committees, and I still find some time I can manage to be a member of this committee. So I just hope that you will consider my application. Thank you, Mr. Christopher Chung. Now, open the floor to members to see if they would like to ask Mr. Chung any questions. Mr. Chung, in fact, has also made a written explanation. So any questions for Mr. Chung? Yes, Mr. Yip Kin-yuen, and then followed by Dr. Kwok Ka-kin. Mr. Chairman, I welcome Mr. Christopher Chung coming to the PWSC meeting and explain to us personally and makes his application for the membership. He has shown his sincerity. As a member of the PWSC, we should seriously consider whether the grounds given are acceptable and whether we can accept Mr. Christopher Chung. Among the late membership applications, many members adopted the same grounds, and that was a mistake made by their assistants. I agree that may be one of the reasons. On some occasions, the member made the mistake. On the other occasion, the assistant made the mistake. We found that a dozen or so members giving the same grounds for late membership application. We found it rather strange. But this may happen under individual circumstances. According to explanation of Mr. Chung, it seems that he was on vacation overseas, and his assistant was also on leave. That was not purely because of the mistake of the assistant, but there was some sort of misunderstanding. Can Mr. Chung therefore clarify this? According to the letter, it seems that you put the responsibility on your assistant. The assistant made the mistake, but according to your explanation, it was a misunderstanding. There was a communication problem between Mr. Chung and his assistant. So can he explain to us more clearly? Was it purely the mistake of the assistant, or is it a matter of communication? Let me explain this. The mistake made by the assistant was only an explanation in writing in a simple form. The actual situation was what I described. I thought that the application I thought that I was just asked to give a written submission stating the grounds of late membership application. I just want to explain the mistake of the secretary is also an issue or problem of communication between myself and the assistant. And I may not be very experienced. As for the written submission, I just stated the grounds. So Mr. Chung is viewed as a matter of communication. Mr. Chung also feels that he's responsible. Thank you. Next, Dr. K.K. Kwok. First of all, I thank Mr. Cheung for coming personally. In comparison with other members who are just hiding behind and they continue to put the blame on their assistants, Mr. Cheung has shown at least some basic ethics. Mr. Cheung said that he was busy, and when he returned, he was late in making the application. I've also heard that it wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't a mistake made by his assistant. On the 8th of October, I don't know whether it was written by you. Maybe it was written by your assistant, and therefore the responsibility was put on the assistant. On this point, Mr. Cheung, you also clarify this. Maybe you can restate the details of the incident. Now, we all have assistants. If we just put the blame on the assistants, we seem not to be quite fair to them. So, Mr. Cheung also apologized to your assistant because you put the blame on your assistant, and that may not be good, or that may not be good enough. That can display your moral responsibility, and your assistant will be very happy. And you will set a good example for other members by admitting your mistakes. Mr. Cheung, thank you for the question. I have already discussed with my assistant on this matter, and we find that there is room for improvement. With regard to detailed arrangement of work, we will step up our communication, and that will not occur. That problem will not occur. Let me clarify this. In fact, I've made 2 points, and I'm trying to help you. The first, you mentioned the details of the case. In fact, you have retracted your. In fact, you will withdraw the letter which puts the blame on the assistant. And I'm glad that there is better communication between you and your assistant.
So will you consider giving an open apology to your assistant, since, in fact, the blame, is not on your assistant? Chairman, in fact, it was not that I wanted to pass all the blame or put all the blame on the assistant. In fact, I had to be held partly responsible. And the assistant was out of town. The assistant did not hand over the matter to my other assistants, and as a result, I missed the deadline in applying for membership. In fact, I wrote in my letter that the matter was due to omission on the part of my assistant. It was just that I had to put down something in writing. In fact, I'm not trying to put all the blame on my assistant. I am partly to blame, and in fact, I have communicated with my assistant, and in future we will work out, in fact, we've worked out better work arrangements for the future. Mr. Gary Fan, I thank Mr. Cheung for attending a meeting today to answer our questions in relation to application for late membership. Now, I want to say that situation with the PWSC is rather unusual this year. At a late stage, many pro-establishment members put in applications for late membership, and they gave more or less the same reason. But then Mr. Cheung has chosen to attend the meeting. He has told us that in fact, he has told us what has happened, and in fact, concerning Mr. Paul Chair, he also chose to attend the meeting, and he very frankly told us what changes have taken place, and as a result, we in fact by a great majority approved his application. So, Mr. Cheung. Now, in fact, the chairman and this subcommittee have on various occasions tried to invite other members who put in late applications to attend the PWSC meeting, but then they refused to attend. But then you've chosen to attend. So do you know why they have chosen not to attend a meeting? And if this subcommittee accepts your application, will you persuade the other members to adopt a more cooperative attitude and to come before this subcommittee to answer our questions? And then this is also, forgive me for being very frank, and the second question is this. Is it that you want to give the administration a helping hand, so to speak, as you know that most of the members in the PWSC in this session are from the Democratic camp. When I put in the application, the chairman asked me whether I really had sufficient time to join another panel. Initially, I thought I might not have enough time to attend the meetings of so many panels. But then subsequently, I realized that in fact many FC items in fact had to be discussed by the PWSC first, and the PWSC usually had meetings at 8:30 a.m. and there shouldn't be clashes with other meetings in terms of meeting time, and I thought that by joining the PWSC, I would be able to learn more about the work of the PWSC, and so I decided that I wanted to join the PWSC. And secondly, I really want to know more about the operation of the PWSC. I think the work of the PWSC is very important, and I want to learn more about the work of the PWSC. I am still a new member, and I think if I can learn more about the work of the PWSC, that will help me in my work as a LegCo member. Mr. Lee Chuk-yan, I think we should go back to why this incident has happened. The pro-establishment camp members all of a sudden discovered that the majority of the PWSC members were members from the Democratic camp, and as a result they wanted to join the PWSC so that they would become the majority again. So pro-establishment members put in applications for late membership. Mr. Christopher Cheung put in an application explaining that there was omission on the part of his assistant. But then I am feeling rather confused. Mr. Cheung said that the chairman asked him whether he could join. When did that happen? And which chairman are you referring to? Are you referring to the chairman of the alliance that you belong to? So when did he ask you the question? Did that have anything to do with your being out of town and your assistants being out of town and your assistant and you said your assistant did not hand over the matter to other assistants, but can I ask you whether you told your assistant that you intended to join the PWSC and he should make sure that you could put in an application before the deadline? And I don't want to see members putting all the blame on the assistants. Now, I want to say that you did not withdraw your letter, and so the blame is still on the assistant, and I think that's a black mark for your assistant, and the assistant may be given a verbal warning or even a written warning, and you know how bad labor relations can be nowadays. So can I ask you, when your chairman asked you whether you could join or whether you had time to join the PWSC, whether you could attend PWSC meetings, when was that? And second, did you tell anyone that you intended to join the PWSC? Did you ask your assistant to make sure that you could join the PWSC? Now, Chairman, I have already said this very clearly. When the Secretariat invited members to join the PWSC, the chairman asked me whether I could join. I merely told my assistant to remind me of the deadline for applying to join the PWSC. I did not tell him definitively that I wanted to join. I hope that members will understand that I, in fact, am very sincere in wishing to join this PWSC. So when did you change your mind? When did you decide that you wanted to join the PWSC? Was it because you saw that the Democrats constituted a majority in the PWSC? People say that I belong to the pro-establishment camp, but then we all can exercise independent judgment. So please do not adopt a conspiracy theory. Pro-establishment members can think independently. They can exercise independent judgment. So please do not think that I wanted to join because I saw many Democrats in the PWSC. I could not change anything. I could not change the PWSC's decision because I was the only one, and I didn't think one vote could make a lot of difference. So when did you change your mind? When did you decide that you wanted to join? That was before I left Hong Kong. But the assistant did not tell me when the deadline was. He did not remind me when the deadline was. Now, to assist you, Mr. Cheung, I've just clarified this with the Secretariat. The deadline for joining was the 4th of October, 12 noon, 4th of October 2014, 12 noon. And I wonder if this information will be helpful to you in your giving a reply to Mr. Lee. Ms. Claudia Mo, thank you. I want to say that I really welcome Mr. Cheung. I want to thank him for coming, and I think a face-to-face dialogue is much better than written correspondence. Now, in this reply, Mr. Christopher Cheung in his written reply, he adopted a very humane touch. He said that his assistant had got things wrong. And then today, Mr. Christopher Cheung is willing to accept his omission. For other members, in fact, 3 members jointly wrote and signed a letter giving the same reason for the delay. And Mr. Christopher Cheung said that pro-establishment members also had independent thinking and could exercise independent judgment. And I really appreciate this remark from him. And Mr. Cheung sounded rather confused when he replied to Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan's question. Now, the chairman has reminded him that the deadline for joining the PWSC was the 4th of October 2014 noon. And I wonder if this piece of information can help Mr. Christopher Cheung give an accurate reply to Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan's question. Now, Mr. Christopher Cheung told us about his working relationship with his assistant, and of course, that had to do with the work arrangements within his ward office. And at this meeting, Mr. Cheung said that he was partly to blame, but then in the letter, he said that the assistant got it wrong. So I think we need an accurate record in black and white. So will you withdraw the earlier letter and write another letter? You said that you had sorted out the work arrangements with your assistants. Of course, that's good. And whether you wanted to apologize, whether you want to apologize to him is a matter for you only. So will you consider writing another letter to the PWC? I'm willing to do that. I just want to say that at the time I was asked, I had to write a letter, and I didn't know that I had to put in all the details, but now I know that members attach importance to letters or records in writing. So I want to say that I'm willing to write another letter to the PWSC clarifying the matter. And I want to say that my working relationship with my assistant has been very good and very cordial, and of course the working arrangements will be improved.
We have a cup of coffee, and then that's a very good way of handling that. I want to follow a question asked by Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan. Mr. Cheung, in fact, Ms. Claudia Mo wants to follow a question asked by Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan. And when did you change your mind? I just reminded you that on the 4th of October 2014, 12 noon was the deadline for application. Would you make use of that date as a reference and tell us whether the change of mind was before that or after that? I was considering whether I had time to join the PWSC. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked my assistant to tell me when the deadline was. When I received the notice from the Secretariat, I was thinking whether I should join or not. I was looking at whether I had enough time. The change of mind would be during that period of time. I was checking whether I had enough time. And then I made a decision. And Mr. Chen Kam-lam, Mr. Chairman, a member joining or leaving a committee is a common matter. It does happen from time to time. We seldom call a meeting specifically on whether the member should be allowed to join or shouldn't be allowed to join. We have had several special meetings on this matter. We're wasting the time of the Council. If we use such precious time to study the items put before us for approval, that will be even more pragmatic. If a member wants to join a committee, that's the right of the member. The committee should not deprive the member the right. And it's really strange today that Mr. Cheung is treated like a defendant. When did you change your mind? When did you have this idea? What were the reasons? That had never happened before. It only happens in this PWSC under your leadership. You should make good use of your power instead of abuse your power. If you continue to conduct a trial like this, whether you pass the approval, the application or not, from October last year until January, whether you approve his application or not, you have taken away his right to participate in the discussion, and that is unfair.
如果話我哋因為人多掌握晒
If you have the majority and you control the agenda, therefore you can do whatever you like, you have distorted the system. We have to be reasonable. We have to uphold justice. Abuse of power in a small in a committee, you have a minority. You make use of every means to delay, to filibuster. Is it the right attitude for monitoring the government? The member wants to participate in monitoring the administration, and you don't allow him. And you try to find many reasons to smear him, to cast a division between him and his assistant. Is it right? There are many panels. There are many bills committees which encountered a similar situation, and they didn't do it this way. Before Ms. Emily Lau, I asked Mr. Emily Lau to speak. I want to point out to Mr. Chen Kam-lam that the PWC is exercising its power according to 4B of the Public Works Subcommittee procedure. The chairman may agree to accept late membership on grounds of indisposition or absence from Hong Kong. A request for late membership on grounds other than indisposition or absence from Hong Kong shall be put to the committee. The committee shall accept such application only when sufficient grounds have been provided. I am doing that according to 4B, and if a member has gone beyond this, if the member does not make use of, does not try to find out whether there are sufficient grounds, then I will stop the member. And I have not seen any member doing so. Ms. Emily Lau. I welcome Mr. Christopher Cheung coming to the meeting, and I thank him for answering members' questions. I've noticed that Mr. Christopher Cheung has not made any allegation. We are all councillors. We just trying to find out the facts. Mr. Chen Kam-lam asked those who have power to make use of the power. Now, I was meeting an Australian parliamentary member, MP. The members asked me that the press asked me that the FC is going to add more meetings, 10 or 20 meetings, whole day meetings. I hope they hear Mr. Chen Kam-lam. Those who have power should make the right use of their power. Let him tell us how those in the Finance Committee who have the majority, how they suppress those who represent the public, who got more votes in direct elections, and those who represent the public are being suppressed by those in the FC. Those in the FC who have the majority suppress those who represent the public. Let him explain that. As for Mr. Cheung's application, now Mr. Cheung, you said that it was a mistake made by your assistant. That was nothing strange. We have many staff members. Whatever the operation system is, at the end of the day, shouldn't the member take the responsibility instead of hiding behind an assistant? Just like the government officials, if they made a mistake, would they say it was a mistake made by a staff member in his office? I just want to ask Mr. Cheung. Now you pointed out something in your office. That was an internal matter. If it was a mistake, then you should take the responsibility. Shouldn't you do that? We're not going to cast any division. I know that your assistant is also watching you, like other members of the public who are watching the direct broadcast. What should you do? Is it just when there is a problem, then you just say that it's your responsibility and I will not take the blame for you? Mr. Cheung, I come from the business sector. I don't know political posturing. I just stated the facts. At the start, I apologize to the committee that I made a late application, and I apologize for that. I also explained how we dealt with that, and I have already explained that we will not make the same mistake again. If the member recognizes that, I hope that you will not start from any conspiracy theory. I want to join the subcommittee. I want to learn more. I try to find out whether I can do something which I want I can do. So Mr. Cheung takes the responsibility for the late membership application. Whether your assistant is right or wrong is not a problem, and you don't blame your assistant. In fact, because of this, we have closer working relationship. You say that I didn't take the responsibility, but at the start, I apologized, and I took the responsibility, and I make sure that it will not happen again. Mr. Chen Kin-pong. Thank you, Chairman. Well, I cannot speak on behalf of Mr. Christopher Cheung, but I want to speak what I feel. Mr. Cheung is very kind. Was the point of making his life difficult. The opposition has overturned its commitment at the last minute, put in a lot of applications at the last moment. The establishment, pro-establishment found that that would paralyze the whole council. As for the grounds, different members gave different grounds. Mr. Cheung apologized. He wanted to do something. I understand him. He's a kind man, absolutely kind, and he doesn't want to play politics just like us. We are business people. We just want to get the job done, please don't make life difficult for him. Whether you approve or not, do it. Just make a decision. And I don't think it is fair to him, and it's not the right thing to do. We have more important things to do. What we want to investigate is investigate those who have received money and they deny it. They are just joining the subcommittee. Don't play with him for such a long time. You have to make a lot of decisions which are important. It's meaningless. I support Mr. Christopher Chung joining the committee. Please deal with it as quickly as possible and do not delay. Mr. Albert Chan. Mr. Chairman, I have a sore throat. The voice is coarse. I didn't intend to speak, but I've heard Mr. Chen Kam Lam, and therefore I rush into this meeting. I fully support Mr. Christopher Chung joining this meeting. It is a basic duty to join a committee. Other members have different political views. Even the loyalists joined the committee and become the majority. I still will vote for their late application, but they have to give the grounds for that. If they lie, if they pass the buck, then I cannot do that knowingly because I cannot allow them passing the buck or distorting the truth. Now, if the majority controls the council, they should not abuse the power. But he has forgotten long hair, the long hair incident. When long hair was in jail, he could not make an application. I applied on his behalf. I applied to join the ESC, and the loyalists rejected my application. That was the CME side of the DAB. When they have the power, they just do whatever they like. And they just like the government officials. They park their cars in restricted zones, and the police will not issue them any tickets. Since 689, C.Y. Leung, the lonely man who became the CE, Hong Kong has deteriorated, and the loyalists just ignore procedural, just ignore due process. They just ignore justice. They just pay lip service to justice. They just pay lip service to fairness. On one hand, they say you cannot deprive other members' rights. When I applied for a membership of ESC and long hair was in jail, whether I do filibustering or not is a personal decision. Joining a committee is a basic right, but they rejected my application.
So, Chairman, I want to say that I support the acceptance of Mr. Cheung's application. I appreciate his frankness and also his willingness to attend the meeting of the PWSC. I understand that his voting inclinations or preferences may not be the same as mine, but doesn't matter. That's the essence of democracy. When the DAB members act in accordance with the instructions of the liaison office, I want to say that I find Mr. Chan's remarks most resentful. And I think his remarks show the nature of the acts of his party. Mr. Ip Kin-yuen, this is my second round, Chairman. Is it that I'll still be given the same amount of time? Yes. Thank you, Chairman. I asked some questions in the first round, and then some members gave some comments, and I would like to respond to those comments. Now, some members are of the view that we are putting Mr. Cheung in a trial. I hope that members will understand, and Mr. Cheung will understand, that I was merely trying to ask Mr. Cheung questions about what exactly happened. In fact, I was very polite when I put my questions to Mr. Cheung, and I was not trying him in any way. We're not trying to make things difficult for any member. We're just trying to ask questions to find out what happened. This is our duty under the PWSC procedure, and I don't think a member will feel bad when he is asked questions. And I hope that Mr. Cheung can tell us whether he felt bad when questions were put to him by me and other members. And also I want to say that we're not wasting the time of the PWSC. This is a special meeting to consider applications for late membership. We have our regular meetings to scrutinize public works items. And I want to say that we are by no means trying to deprive members of the opportunity to discuss matters put before the PWSC. In fact, non-PWSC members can always attend PWSC meetings and take part in the discussion, although they cannot vote on PWSC items. Mr. Chan Kin-po is looking at the situation as if it were a struggle. And I don't think that that's really the case. And I think we should always follow established procedures and mechanisms to discuss matters of public interest, to ask questions, and to give replies. And I just want to say that we in this PWSC should follow the established mechanism and discharge our duties. Mr. Chair, now I thank Mr. Ip for his remarks. Now, as to whether I feel that I am in a trial. Now, if a member has asked a question and I have given a reply, and then another member asked the same question, then I will have that feeling. And secondly, I hope that members will understand that I'm also an elected member, and I am also a man of integrity, and I hope that members will not think that I have proceeded from my personal interest, and please do not adopt a conspiracy theory. Now, Mr. Cheung, I want to say this, Chairman, and I want to say that there is a discrepancy between what is written in your letter and what you said earlier in this meeting. But I want to say that, in fact, I do support your application. Now, Chairman, let me repeat. Concerning my first letter, I was just trying to put something down in writing, and it didn't occur to me that I had to be very detailed in the account I gave in the letter. And I'm present here today to try to elaborate on the issue. Yes, Miss Emily Lau, I thank Mr. Cheung for being present today. Yes, he is our colleague, he is a electrical member, and I believe he does agree that we should all follow the established mechanism. Mr. Cheung, I believe you heard what Mr. Chen say. He said that those who constituted the majority should make good use of the powers that they had. So you are from the pro-establishment camp, Mr. Cheung. Do you think that pro-establishment members are making good use of the powers that they possess? Mr. Cheung, now different members have their independent thinking. And then, so Ms. Lau would like to know whether pro-establishment members have been making good use and fruitful use of their powers. It depends on whether issues and matters can be resolved in a rational and reasonable manner. If this objective is achieved, then the powers have been well exercised. Now, Mr. Cheung, the pro-establishment members constitute the majority in this council, and do you think pro-establishment members have been making proper and good use of their powers? Mr. Chen is saying that those who constitute the majority should not abuse their powers. So do you think the pro-establishment members have been making good and reasonable use of their powers? I think the pro-establishment members have reflected their views properly every time, and I don't think they have abused their powers in any way. The Pan-Democrats also have their justifications, and I won't accuse them of not having made good use of their powers. I think what is important is that we should do things for the good of Hong Kong, for the good of Hong Kong people, and if we act in this manner, then we are exercising our powers well and properly. Now, Mr. Cheung said a number of times that he wanted to join the PWSC because he wanted to learn more things. But we're not here to learn. We are here to scrutinize public works items and proposals from the administration. So can Mr. Cheung clarify his position? Now, I am a humble person, Chairman, and that is why I'm saying that I want to learn more. So I said that I'm only here to learn and I can't contribute to the work of the PWSC. Now, I'm just being humble, and I want to say that I am willing to give comments on the various items. Of course, it's up to you to decide whether you want to give comments. Yes, it's good to be humble, and I hope that you can understand that I'm also a person of humility. But then you have been a member for some time, and so I can't really understand what you mean by saying that you want to learn more things by joining this PWSC. We're here to scrutinize public works items. So what do you mean by wanting to learn more by joining the PWSC, Mr. Cheung? So I want to clarify. Now I have to learn more and know more about the item before I can give comments and vote on it. So you may think I haven't really expressed myself too well, but I want to say that this is really my genuine feeling. Ms. Lau didn't accuse you of not having expressed yourself well. Ms. Mo, we're here to look at Mr. Cheung's application for late membership. We're not here to debate the issues like the operation of this council and the abuse of powers enjoyed by electoral members. But then I want to refute Mr. Chan's comments and arguments since he has made such arguments. I want to put my comments on a record. I think it's reasonable for you to do so. Thank you, Chairman. Now, Mr. Chan said that those who constituted the majority must not abuse their powers. They must make use of their powers in a rational and fair and just manner. Now, I want to say that I want to remind Mr. Chan what happened at the FC meeting this morning between 8:30 and 10:30 a.m. The pro-establishment members abused their powers as the majority in this council. They didn't exercise their powers to monitor the work of the administration. They merely followed the administration's instructions. Now, we haven't made things difficult for Mr. Cheung at all. We haven't tried to embarrass him, but maybe Mr. Cheung might feel a bit embarrassed when Miss Emily Lau asked him whether he thought the pro-establishment members had been making good use of their powers as the majority in the council. Now, I think Mr. Cheung really can't reply on behalf of people like Mr. Wong Kwok-kin. And I in fact asked my questions very politely, very gently, and I heard Mr. Cheung give his replies in a very gentle and polite manner. In fact, the dialogue was very sweet. Mr. Albert Chan, you may need to cool down a bit. He's coughing. Ms. Mo, you can continue. So, I duly and politely asked my questions, and he duly and politely gave his replies. And in fact, Mr. Cheung is very nice. He in fact chose to answer all questions put to him by members, and Mr. Cheung in fact said, or in his replies, said we pro-establishment members thought this way and acted this way. And I think that that's really a bit dangerous. Mr. Cheung, I believe you were only giving your own comments and you were not speaking on behalf of all pro-establishment members, right? Now, if I say that I'm not a pro-establishment member, I'm sure members will say that I'm not telling the truth, and you will all criticize me. But I want to say one thing that is very clear, and that is pro-establishment members all have independent thinking. We exercise independent judgment. But then, Chairman, in reply to Ms. Lau's question, Mr. Cheung said something, and I want to ask whether he was only speaking in his personal capacity or whether he felt that he was speaking on behalf of all pro-establishment members. Now, Ms. Mo merely wants to know whether you were speaking on behalf of all pro-establishment members. Now, of course, I can't speak on behalf of all pro-establishment members. I want to say this again. I'm a new member. I have been working hard, and I want to learn more. And I think being hardworking and being willing to learn more is not something wrong. Oh, so we don't have members queuing up anymore? Oh, no, Tam Yu Chong. Mr. Tam Yu Chong first. Mr. Tam Yu Chong. Chairman, Ms. Mo said that he put questions to Mr. Cheung in a gentle and polite manner. Now, I want to say that, in fact, she was trying to divide Mr. Cheung and the pro-establishment camp. Mr. Cheung is a very honest person. He gave his views honestly, but then Ms. Mo was trying to query Mr. Cheung's account in a so-called gentle manner.
They asked you the time, the dates, just short of asking you to get a witness. And your humble words are regarded as hypocritical. The Pan-Democrats, the opposition, are good at making use of words, though they blame others for cheating with words. They just keep smearing other people, including the DAB. They keep smearing the DAB. They pull no punches in bad-mouthing other people. Now, members made, some councillors made late membership applications. They have already written in, and they should not use special meetings as a tactic to waste the time of the Council, which should have been devoted to deal with urgent matters. Although it is a special meeting, it's still Council's time. And when you call a meeting, then you keep having meetings after meetings and keep asking questions. It is a waste of the precious time of this Council. Everybody can see it. Everybody can see this ulterior motive. Thank you. Mr. K.K. Fung. Thank you, Chairman. Now, if a member wants to join a committee of the Council, the member has a right. It's also his duty. And we cannot block, we cannot be accused of blocking him. I think that's really guessing somebody's motive while one has ulterior motive. The majority who have applied, in fact, didn't intend to apply. Why suddenly they want to join? And I want to know the reasons. But according to the written answers, just by coincidence, everybody is the same. The assistants have made a mistake, an oversight. The assistant has forgotten that. Then the assistant is really not doing his or her job. And that makes people wonder whether the councillor is just putting the blame on the assistant. And if everybody has the same reason, then does it mean that originally all of them didn't want to attend and now suddenly collectively they wanted to join? I don't know whether my thinking is correct or not. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Cheung. In fact, I've already answered the question clearly. Somebody asked me whether I had the feeling of being put on trial in comparison with Mr. Po Che. His answer was acceptable by you very easily, and he didn't need to write another letter. He didn't need to explain again and again. I didn't make any big mistake. I just want to say once again that I sincerely want to join this subcommittee. If there is any question of my integrity in respect of not being suitable to join this subcommittee, please point it out. I begin to have the feeling that I'm being put on trial. Well, I have no intention to put you on trial and I have no power to do so. I do have some curiosity. Now the Pan-Democrats was the majority. The Pan-Democrats were the majority in this subcommittee, and then the pro-establishment, because of this, sent a big group to join this subcommittee to regain the majority in this subcommittee, with a view to exercising the power of the majority and suppress the minority. As for me, I don't want to use the power of the majority to suppress the minority. I always think that our counterparty is the government or the executive. And the executive, in dealing with its relationship with the Finance Committee, the ESC, and the PWSC, is that of a bully. It bullies this council. It bullies the FC, the PWSC, the ESC, and the pro-establishment doesn't care about right or wrong and just supports C.Y. Leung. And that is my reservation. I have nothing against Mr. Christopher Cheung personally. If you are interested in the work of this subcommittee, why can't we stop him? Why should we stop him? Ms. Ho. Thank you, Chairman. The communication between members and their assistants may not be very tight or very close because you are very busy, and sometimes you may be late in signing certain returns. I believe every member has such an experience. This time, a dozen or so members made the same mistake. All of them missed the deadline on the 4th of October, and then a dozen or so around 8th of October gave the same reason that the assistants made the mistake and they wanted to make a late membership application. Well, I'm not very familiar with Mr. Cheung, but I hope I understand why we have such questions. And we do have some doubts about it, and that's reasonable. Everybody knows that in this council there are the pro-establishment members and the pan-democrats, and the pro-establishment wants to make use of its majority to stop us from seriously monitoring the government. The pan-democrats paid attention to the process and watched the timetable very carefully, and we became the majority of this PWSC, and we have the same objective, and that is to seriously monitor the government. We don't want the subcommittee to be a rubber stamp. We don't want the council to dance according to the pattern of C.Y. Leung. We hope that the pro-establishment who do have a bottom line will work with us, and I hope Mr. Cheung is one of this. Now, Mr. Cheung wants to participate in the work of the PWSC. He isn't just to join this for the purpose of joining. Now, but you can attend not as a member. The only difference is you don't have the right to vote, but you can still attend as a member. You can still attend, though not as a member. Now, there are substantive issues like the Lien Tang border or the noise barrier of Chun Mun or special education center, community centers, whether they should increase the plot ratios. But I have not noted Mr. Cheung attending the meeting. We don't know the outcome of the vote, but if Mr. Cheung is really interested in the work of the PWSC, he can in fact attend all these meetings without being a member because he's a legitimate member, and he can still ask questions. Now, if a non-member raises his hand to ask his questions, will you only allow them to ask after all other members have asked their questions, or you allow him just follow join the queue, so that you can assure Mr. Cheung. Now, I sincerely want to be a member, and if you ask me just to attend without being a member, that's unfair to me. I have said what I can say, and if you think I'm not appropriate, then you can oppose. But I don't want to be put on trial here. Chairman, can you explain whether you will be fair to deal with the right to speak or right to be heard in a fair manner, both for members and non-members? I will allow you to speak according to the order in the queue, and I hope that those members who have or those councillors who are not members of this subcommittee, they can still come and ask questions. On the screen, we still have Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen and Gary Fan, and I will ask the two members to speak on 4B, whether you think the grounds provided by Mr. Cheung are sufficient. Afterwards, and then I will put the issue to the vote. Mr. Lee Cheuk-yin. You can see this morning the Finance Committee accommodated to C.Y. Leung. C.Y. Leung said that no question should be asked on the funding for the IT Bureau. Now we want to monitor the government. We will continue to ask questions. We will continue to discuss the matter. We will not be a rubber stamp. Mr. Cheung has left. In fact, he said one thing which did help us in dealing with his application. I think our responsibility is to consider whether the grounds are sufficient. And he said very clearly that he would write another letter again. He'll write another letter in. I've heard his grounds, and the grounds given, and also the details given, were much more than the original letter. Since he said that he would write another letter, then I suggest we would wait for his new letter in order to be fair. Since he said he would write in again, and if we ignore that new letter, then that will be unfair to him. We have to look at his written we should look at his letter first before we decide on that. Since we are to wait for this, and since our meeting is running out of time, and we have to deal with each member's application one by one, let us wait for his letter. I thank him for coming. And next time he doesn't need to come. And after we've looked at his letter, then we can make a decision right away. Mr. Lee Cheuk-yin has made a suggestion to deal with Mr. Cheung's application. According to Mr. Cheung's undertaking, he said that he would write in again to include all the details he gave us this morning, and Mr. Cheung and Mr. Lee Cheuk-yin proposed to wait for this letter. And before dealing with Mr. Cheung's application, we will not deal with the applications of the remaining 10 members. Mr. Gary Fan.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree with Mr. Lee Cheuk-yin. I think it will be helpful if we can get the letter. I want to say that, in fact, I asked Mr. Cheung a question, but he didn't give a reply. I think the PWSC does operate well in the 2015 session. Now we voted down certain items, and as a result, livelihood issues were brought before the PWSC, for example, before the subcommittee, or for example, the Kwun Tong Community Hall. And then the Mr. Porches link application was also accepted. And in fact, that was why I asked Mr. Cheung whether he wanted to join the PWSC in order to defend the administration's position. And I asked him the question very frankly because that was that would affect our because I'm mindful of the fact that our work may be affected, and some members said that Mr. Cheung was a very kind person like a Buddha, but I want to say that before the umbrella movement, Mr. Cheung did ask a question in the council as to whether the PLA would be called to assist to suppress the movement. So, Mr. Cheung, although you're not in this in this conference room, I hope that you won't get angry with the question, with this question, because I think it's just proper and appropriate for us to follow the procedures and ask questions that we have. Mr. Albert Chan. Now, I tend to adopt a more relaxed attitude in considering members' application for membership or late membership, and I think we shouldn't be biased just because a member has certain political inclinations. Now, Mr. Christopher Cheung has already given verbal explanations, and he has promised to follow up with another letter. Of course, that's good, and I think what he has said in at this meeting is enough for us to decide whether we should accept his application, and I don't think there is a need to wait for his second letter. And I think we should attach importance to what members say during meetings of the Legislative Council, and we shouldn't give people the impression that we are biased against him. And I suggest that we should make a decision today, and we should at this meeting approve his application for late membership. Thank you. Mr. Yip. All right. Chairman, I agree with Mr. Albert Chan. What members say at meetings of the LegCo recorded in the minutes. Mr. Christopher Cheung has already clarified the situation more than once, in fact. And I think whether he is going to give us another letter is really not that important. I think Mr. Christopher Cheung should withdraw his earlier letter, and the account given in the letter should be superseded or replaced by the verbal account he gave at today's meeting. I think Mr. Christopher Cheung has already clarified the matter verbally at this meeting. All right. In fact, before Mr. Christopher Cheung left, I had intended to draw a conclusion. He said he was humble, he wanted to learn more, and he said he was in fact partly to blame. And in fact, I intended to summarize what he had said, and I intended to put the matter to the vote, but then Mr. Cheung has already left because he has to attend to other matters. Now, members, we have two options before us. Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan suggests that we should wait for the revised letter from Mr. Cheung first, and then we should, on the basis of the revised letter, vote on whether his application should be accepted. And while we are waiting for Mr. Cheung's revised letter, we will not deal with the applications of other members. And then Mr. Albert Chan and Mr. Ip Kin-yuen are of the view that we can vote on the matter now, and there is no need to wait for his revised letter. So, members, for those who support Mr. Lee Cheuk-yan's suggestion, please raise your hands. And then for those who support Mr. Albert Chan's and Mr. Ip Kin-yun's suggestion, please raise your hands. So 3 to 4. So in other words, we should put the matter to the vote now. So, members will now proceed to vote on Mr. Christopher Cheung's application for late membership. Do we have a quorum? We have a quorum. We do have a quorum. So those who support the idea, please raise your hands. In other words, those who agree that Mr. Christopher Cheung's application for late membership should be accepted, please raise their hands. 4. Those who are against this motion, please raise their hands. Can Ms. Sit Ho's mic be switched on, please? I want to reiterate why I oppose Mr. Christopher Cheung's application. Mr. Cheung did not answer my question. Now, in fact, if he is very interested in matters being discussed by the PWSC, he can always attend our meetings, but I have never seen him. All right, those who oppose the motion, please raise their hands. 4 in favor, 3 against. So, a majority of the members who voted are in favor of the motion, and so Mr. Christopher Cheung's application is accepted. Now, in fact, we've arranged a seat for Mr. Cheung, but then as he is not present now, so maybe next time, the clerk, maybe next time then. All right, so we have got 10 outstanding applications to be dealt with. We decided that we would deal with the applications one after another, and we would vote on the applications one by one. And so the next application is the application from Mr. Ho Chun-yin. Members, any suggestions as to how we should deal with the application? So Mr. Ho doesn't want to come to answer our questions, right? He has already replied that he will not come. That would be difficult. Now we thank Mr. Poche and Mr. Christopher Cheung for coming, because our decision is to have an exchange with the members first before we deal with their applications, and we can't ask an empty chair a question. So what should we do, Chairman? So members may want to make a decision on the basis of the letter provided by Mr. Ho. So we act in accordance with procedure 4B. So we accept applications when sufficient grounds have been provided. In his letter, Mr. Ho said that his assistant had made a mistake and had missed the deadline. In fact, as I told Mr. Christopher Cheung, members should shoulder the blame and should not put the blame on their assistants. And as Mr. Ho is not here. I can't ask him this question. Now, Mr. Cheung was here. He gave a reply. In fact, I want to ask all these members who have put in applications the same question. I think electoral members and the government officials have to shoulder all the responsibility, and they should not put the blame on their assistants. All right. Other members? In this conference room, we only have 5 members, including myself, and we don't have a quorum. So do members think that in the absence of a quorum, we should continue to deal with the remaining 10 applications? So what do you think, members? I need your I need your views. Mr. Ip, may I suggest that we adjourn the meeting and we'll continue the discussion next time? All right. I think we should adjourn. We've dealt with Mr. Christopher Cheung's application, and our next meeting will be at 8:30 tomorrow, and we'll have 1 more member in the PWSC. Tomorrow we will discuss the proposals on the construction of schools. So meeting adjourned.